Will I leave enough behind to fill this void? Is there enough of me to share? Do you care? Dragons of the night become my mind, and the foothills swarm with life. I am.
It's the Lyrical Wax.
Those were the lyrics of Jesse Canny, guitarist and co-lyricist of the band The Black Swamp. My name is PurpleZain of the Lyrical Wax podcast. This podcast combines my love of music and my love of lyrics with my other profession. I'm a registered psychologist, head honcho of Chill Psychology based out of Tweed Heads, combining my love of psychology, my love of lyrics to interview singers like Jesse and find out what was going on for them and what are their lyrics all about. Let's go. Jesse, welcome to the Lyrical Wax podcast. Good to see you.
Hey, Zane. Yeah, thanks for having us on. Excited to talk shop and talk about some lyrics.
Yep, well, that's what we're here to do. So, Jesse, we're here to pretty much talk about the Black Swamp band you've been in 2012. Is that right to say?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, started in 2012 as a live band. I think put out our first album in 2014. So it's coming around to 12 years on the road and 10 years of recording.
Yeah, and there's a little bit of a promo we're going to tie into this relating to that 2014 release, but we'll get to that in a second. Before this, the Lyrical Wax podcast is about analysing people's lyrics and having a chat to them about what was going on and what those lyrics mean and stuff. But it's always good to get a little bit of background information on the person. So a couple of things that's interesting with your involvement is that you're not actually the singer of the Black Swamp, but you are the lyric writer or majority lyric writer. This is just something I was wanting to get, like all the lyrics, some of the lyrics, a little bit of that, and would be interesting to know.
Yeah, it sort of came about naturally, I think. There's a couple of different reasons that a few of us have started contributing to writing the lyrics. Bit of a Geezer Butler approach, maybe, where you've got a bass player writing lyrics. That was sort of the same that happened with us. Stu, in the early days of our band, would write a certain amount of lyrics. He was definitely extremely gifted with the melody side of things, but to progress some of the lyrics, a lot of us had other ideas about what we might sing or write about. But also, I guess part of our writing style as well is that when I sit down and write a guitar riff, sometimes I actually think about, the song, the vocal melody, or at least the phrasing of the lyrics at the same time, and I write the lyrics at the same time as the musical piece, which is maybe not as common for metal, but definitely how we've approached at least, I'm going to say, about half of our songwriting. So we might present, whoever the songwriter is might present the whole song to the band rather than here's the riff and go from there.
Okay, and that's sort of been the case over the entire decade or so of the band? Like, it's sort of how things work?
Yeah, it's kind of carried on. I'd say in the first, we've had two vocalists in the lifetime of the band. Obviously the first was Stu for about 5 years, and Luke's been with us about 7 or 8 years now. And Luke and I had actually played in a doom band before, a local sort of stoner rock doom band called Droid, for a short amount of time. and so we had a really great relationship through that. And he was happy to receive, song ideas from myself when we were doing Droid, and then the same thing carried on when we brought Luke in to do the vocals on the Black Swamp stuff. So it's still something that sort of organically happens now. We've just been writing an album that we're going to record this year, and maybe half of the songs. I'll still present them to the band as a whole song, and sometimes they'll just say, "Oh, that's not even a Black Swamp song. It's too, it's not heavy enough,
K-pop.
or it's a bit too this or too that, or whatever it is." They might reject the song, or they might take the whole song, or Luke might rework the lyrics himself. But I guess the lyrics are never so much an afterthought for us, unless there's a really strong riff idea that comes up first.
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah, because I mean, people, just think, or just by layman's may think, the guy who's singing the song wrote the lyrics, but it's not always the way, is it? Because maybe if I can throw this out to you, Jesse, not to embarrass you a bit, but you just don't think you're a good singer. Has that got a lot to do with it? Like you just don't have a voice of an angel or a growl of Beelzebub himself?
Yeah, that's 1,000% spot on. Probably if I could sing a lot better, I'd be doing it. But yeah, it's sadly not a talent I have.
Okay, fair enough. So one thing, getting a little bit of backstory too, about the lyrical theme of this. Did you, even though you weren't a singer, so to speak, did you write like lyrics or poetry when you were young? Was that always something that you were drawn to? Or is it more about the fact once you started playing, you wanted to be, you want to be in a band, so you just think, oh, well, I'm writing riffs, so I probably should write some lyrics too. Sort of give us a bit of maybe the history, of your lyric writing.
Yeah, I do like writing, or in general in kind of any form. So any type of artistic expression to me is an opportunity. So to be in a band and to be able to express, some of the things you're feeling, that's a wonderful opportunity to me. In the same way that, like, I'd love to write. Years ago, I would write a little bit of, reviews around other people's music or gigs, or, write reviews for the scene or something like that. Or I think growing up, I wanted to be a journalist. I love just the written form itself. In my spare time, I'm a sucker for study. I'm constantly enrolled in something, learning, and writing's a vehicle for being creative, and when was to bring it back to the Black Swamp, I guess when we started out, it was about having a band that was, sonically a sludge rock, sludge metal, stoner rock band, because that was just the sound that we wanted to create. But as you start to get a little bit more, serious about your work, you kind of want you want to be as proud of your lyrical output as you are your riffs,
Yeah, no, fair enough. That's totally understandable, because to a certain degree, the riffs are just as much part of a song as the lyrics. But a lot of people that, like, if you play guitar, you're biased to riffs and stuff. But there's a lot of music fans out there who go to gigs that don't know how to play guitar, and they're into the sort of the vocals and the lyrics, aren't they? So you do need I understand some people might not put a lot of thought into their lyrics, but a good lyric, I'll tell you what, you got to be proud of that, don't you? And we're going to go through a few of them today. Alrighty, cool. So a little bit of backstory, and maybe just, it's it can be interesting to put things in perspective a little bit. Some I've read over your lyrics. That's how this works. Everyone out there listening, I do get sent the lyrics beforehand, and I do get to read over them. But again, coming from a bit of like this podcast, a little bit of the psychological edge of it to it, yourself though, growing up, because there are some things I want to ask you that sort of I think might be relevant to you. And I do know, I've known you for a little while and know a little bit about you, but you grew up, around your Gold Coast, Brisbane, in the country. Did you grow up in the country? That's actually what I'm leading to, or in the city, or what?
Yeah. I grew up in Cromer Valley, which is on the Gold Coast. And
best of both worlds, country and Gold Coast.
Yeah. We used to call, if we went to the beach at Currumbin, which is sort of just 8 k's down the road, we used to call it going to town. Like when we were kids, we'd say, "Oh, can you take us to town, Dad or Mum?" So it was a bushland setting for sure, and I think that definitely, as you would know, in my career, I've definitely been attracted to nature and the outdoors, and some of that comes through our lyrics, and I guess more as my upbringing was probably very rebellious, as most people who are into heavy music tend to be. So maybe a galvanizing theme around some of our music is about rebelling, but maybe more evolving from that into like rebellious, but with a cause, not just for the sake of being contrarian. So there might be some environmental themes in our music, and but then there's some socio-political themes, like all metal bands tend to dwell on as well. Stick to the man sort of stuff.
Yeah, all right. Well, we'll get stuck into it. There's some things I picked up. Obviously I didn't. Again, everyone listening out there, I asked people not to send me their entire discography because I don't have time to read through hundreds of songs. But I asked people to send through the lyrics that they think are quite relevant, or if they got something to promote, of course, but stuff that represents them. I would like to start with Bastards of the Universe, 2014, off the EP Foulness. What's just a great name to start with. Bastards of the Universe, in my opinion, should have been the name of the EP, not Foulness. Foulness is a nice word, but Bastards of the Universe is very all-encompassing, not including the multiverse, but at this universe we live in. So I got a few sort of cool impressions from this song, and I'm going to maybe read a couple of the lyrics and then give you a little bit of my my thoughts on it. So, starting with space became the ocean, planets are new Earth. If man controls his own destiny, what are the hours worth? So you wrote this in 2014. There's a lot in the news about, getting to Mars and space travel. And I think, I like a little bit of watching a few docos on the vastness of the universe. So it's, the planets are the new Earth. So it's like trying to colonize Mars, and how far can we go as a species, isn't it? That opening line. I get that impression. For the sky is overreaching, hallucinating mind. All the planets are leaving. The dogs are trapped inside. So the opening line's quite obvious about colonizing the galaxy. But this has got some interesting references I wouldn't mind asking you about. Skies overreaching, hallucinating mind. The planets are leaving. The dogs are trapped inside. Now, that is actually something I wanted to ask you. What is that sort of referencing? It's not so obvious.
Yeah, the whole song's steeped in metaphor. You're spot on with the start of those opening lines. It is the song is based on like a voyage, but it's actually the song's actually premised on it's kind of on, I guess, some of my own feelings about what we do with the current Earth and our search for, say, a different place to live, but it's all reflected actually from a movie Prometheus. It was the Ridley Scott movie.
Yeah.
Yeah,
About the
years
prequel
ago.
to Aliens.
And yeah. And so, like in the film, it's, you know, they're leaving the planet in search for some holy grail that maybe exists somewhere else. And when we're talking about you know, the planets are new Earth, I'm sort of suggesting that the final frontier that we might have thought centuries ago was I don't know, the East, the Far East, or you know, crossing the oceans. The planets became the new final frontier. The solar systems became the new final frontier, and the song alludes to sort of reaching for something that might be or that may be out there, and sort of, you know, not seeing the forest for the trees, and not understanding that what you've already got might be great in itself, and you're chasing a holy grail that maybe is not all that crash hot compared to you know, some things that are maybe already in your life, or
compared to the beauty of Currumbin Valley. Yeah, well, that's right. You know, I could imagine they talk about colonising Mars and all this sort of stuff, and I do have quite an interesting fascination in it, because it is quite interesting, the fact that it might actually be possible. But you know, if you rocked up to a part of the world that was like Mars, you'd be like, this is a shithole. Get me out of here. I do not like it here. This is not nice. Like you could probably go to the middle of the Sahara Desert as a tourist, you know, on a very well packed out van, so you're not going to die, and see it, and it'd be kind of beautiful. A bit Lawrence of Arabia, take some snapshots, but you definitely wouldn't want to be hanging out there for more than a couple of hours, would you?
You wouldn't,
so
no,
good
you
point.
wouldn't particularly want to stay.
The third stanza, Under the Stars of the Sun, you spelt sun S-O-N, as in human. Is that a God reference? Or an alien, our alien creator? Now that I know about Prometheus, is it an alien, you know, because I did make a note, you know, a little bit later on, Bastards of the Universe, We Are Not Alone. So again, is that God versus aliens, or is that what that reference is about?
Yeah, I guess. Stylise it in the lyrics as a capital S as well, which would sort of, you know, refer to a biblical figure. And the film deals with the idea that there might be a creator, and you know, the sort of very overambitious human protagonists are looking for that creator, and part of you know, if I look at that lyric, under the stars of the sun, will you still find anyone? I guess the idea of the song is that it's searching for this thing, this explanation to who we are, and this explanation to you know, the biggest question, the biggest human question: is there anything else? Does life have a meaning? Is there a creator? All that kind of thing. If you go and look for that, and if you go and chase that, you know, that idea to its root, are you going to be disappointed if you find out that it was meaningless? And maybe do you need to know the answer to whether you know, there is a creator?
Would you like to know the answer, Jesse?
I do not want to be currently converted.
No, this ain't only today. No hallelujah preaching. I know I'd like to know. I'd like to know if there's aliens. I definitely would like to know if there's aliens. That's 100% true. It would be it could rock up any minute.
The song
the
toys
dragon.
with that idea.
Now that in that context, I see it now, and the line, I definitely wanted to ask, the dragon will enslave, but I think you answered that question. Will the dragon enslave? So if it's about Prometheus and aliens, like they, like you go out looking for your creator and they just turned out to be monstrous beasts that are going to like throw like eggs down your stomach and explode out of your guts at dinner time. Yeah, that's definite enslavement, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, and maybe that ultimate meaning I guess the metaphor for that is that ultimate meaning you find that you're searching for might not bring you any solace or any I guess the song is an existential meandering between would an answer like that give you any solace or not, or does it matter, and potentially finding out might bring you more harm than good.
Because there's also, I think that'd be something worth saying. If you don't know your destiny and you don't know, that actually gives life hope. There can't be, if you know your destiny's screwed, then where's the hope? So we need that little bit of hope, don't we? We need that little bit of uncertainty about the future to keep us moving forward and giving life a go. Yeah,
like I'm probably a firm believer that we create our own meaning, and that meaning isn't derived from, say, a deity or a spiritual being. It's not given to us. It's something we create for ourselves, and it would be the protagonist in that film. I think. Like Ridley Scott is suggesting that at least the central figure, she is pretty disappointed when her Christianity becomes unravelled by the idea that there's aliens and they're not all that nice.
That's right. No, because admittedly it has been a while. Like, I try not to do too much research before this, but I never knew the song was about Prometheus. But it's been a while since I've seen it. I was a huge Aliens fan, so they're sort of the first couple. So I do remember being a little bit disappointed by Prometheus, but it definitely did reach for some giant existential questions, didn't it? More so than the other one. So in the context of what you're singing about, it does make sense. And the link in, you probably couldn't have too much existential. Well, you could actually fear for your life in the other, in like Aliens with the Machine, but like as far as the existential dread of who are we right now, they got no time. They got no time for questioning that sort of stuff, do they? They're just trying not to get eaten. Okay.
Yeah. Look, I could have written the song without any metaphor, and I would have bored myself, right? And we would have been talking about, is there a God, or maybe no, there's not. Woe is me. But heavy metal is a fun genre, and exploring science fiction is something lots of heavy metal bands have done before and will continue to do, and is a very fun way to engage sometimes with some deeper topics.
And maybe a little bit, science fiction, a little bit of a hangover from your stoner band. Was it Droid days? So you can't have a stoner band without writing about science fiction themes, can you? Okay. All righty, cool. So they're very... And the reason... I don't know if I said this before or not, so maybe we'll cut it if I already had, but the reason why this song, Bastards of the Universe, is what we're leading with, because it is coming up. It's getting redone for a 10-year re-release. Can you maybe confirm or explain that one to me?
Yeah, I think this song has become it's the song we play at the end of all of our set lists. And the version that's recorded with Stu from our very first EP it's an 8-minute song. And we're thinking about recording it as a single and re-releasing it for its 10-year anniversary. People love just shouting out that line, "Bastards of the Universe." I think we can all sort of get around the idea that we know some bastards of the universe. So.
Yeah, all right, cool. Well, let's sort of see what comes of that. That would be interesting. Do you think it will be Do you think it'll be you're gonna do it up? Are we going to get like a techno remix or like an acoustic a folk version, or is it going to be just sort of a heavier just going to be is it going to be a cover of your original, or is it going to be a reworking, or you're not sure at the moment which one?
Look, I think we'll be pretty faithful to the original, but Luke has often talked about our band being one that could do an acoustic set, and this is a song that one day down the track, who knows?
All right, well, let's see what happens. All righty, cool. So we're going to move on to the next song we got you've put forward. Common Crows from the 2016 LP, I Am. So Common Crows, this is, I'll give a little bit of again, like last time, a bit of my spiel on it. I'd definitely like to ask you about what the title, where it comes from, but we'll get into some of the lyrics. Our fathers, they are unknown. They made our inheritance, now they're gone. We may be left secondhand, falling from house to home. So a little bit about our ancestry. I'm getting the impression of that. The line, though, I would like to ask you about that. I thought it's a good line. I would like to know what it means, though. Falling from house to home. So, it's not a crack house, it's a crack home. I love that joke, that meme. So the difference between a house and a home, that's sort of well explained. But falling, so again, our fathers, they are unknown. They made our inheritance, now they're gone. We may be left secondhand, falling from house to home. Give us a bit of what that line means. It's a good one. It's interesting.
Yeah. So I'll go to the very first question you had there about the song title, because that probably sets up what we can talk about. So Common Crows, the reason I gave the song that name was if the song is a tribute to the heavy music scene. And the reason I chose the name is that if you go to any heavy music venue, you're just going to see a sea of black shirts, and they'll all have different, band logos and stuff on them. But it's a pretty gothic looking crowd most of the time.
This just all makes perfect sense now.
Yeah, and I guess the idea of look, I'm a bit of a naturalist as well, and there's different types of crows, but one of them being a common crow, or you could have a Taurasian crow or whatever. But common, the idea that sort of we're all in this together, and falling from house to home and these ideas of kin and stuff is kind of where you find them rather than maybe where your birth lottery lands you. So the idea that I think there's some other lyrics in there that our TV sets spill out into the streets or something like that. Like we leave.
Yeah, that one. I was going to get to that one a bit later, but keep going.
We leave these domestic bliss or domestic torture, depending on which family you might have come from, and we go out and we celebrate music. That's the community you've chosen, sort of.
Yes, all right, because, there's obviously, straight the first line, our fathers, they are under, so there's obviously that ancestry theme to this, but then to actually hear that it's about, the music scene and the ancestry of heavy metal and hard rock, and the bands that came before us, obviously the big famous ones, but, there's been so many local bands from the beginning of bands that never made it, that never became famous, but might have been influential, to that local scene or influenced our favorite artists. So again, the next bit makes a bit of sense. But there is one question I definitely want to ask you. But the second stanza, the scars you earn are yours to keep. So that is actually. That's not metaphorical. That's if you're in the mosh pit and get headbutted and crack your skull open, then that's actually a scar that you keep. Is that what you mean by that then? Is that what we're leading to?
No. Well, I think part of the beautiful thing about lyrics is they're yours. They're yours to keep as well. The lyrics
Yes,
don't
but
have to
this is
be
why I
just
do
about
this.
my own personal interpretation.
That's why we're doing this, Jesse, because this is why I'm interviewing you. I could interview myself about it otherwise.
Yeah.
All right, so
I think,
you go on. Yeah, please.
I think, well, I guess it's probably recognising that we all probably have some traumas, but I do like duality of meanings in songwriting as well. Probably through all my lyrics, I'm saying two things at a time, and with this song as well. I'm happy for parts of it to come off as just getting hammered in a mosh pit, or somebody else interpreting it a different way that's meaningful to them.
Yeah, and that is, I can understand that too. We all, as lyricists, there is a sort of, maybe not enjoyment, but, the ambiguity of a lyric where you might mean something, but you sort of know it might be interpreted in a different way. It does make you feel a little bit clever. I do it myself, I must say. However, there is something that is extremely, extremely specific in this that you have to give me a specific answer. This stanza, our roots spread out amongst the streets, and James Brunswick did you no harm. So who's James Brunswick? Come on, that's not ambiguous. I mean, there's probably lots of James Brunswicks out in the world, but you said that name because it is one person. So who is that person?
So this is the most asked question of our song lyrics of people. So this is perfect that you're covering it because it just sets the record straight.
So you never have to ask it ever. No one can ask you ever again.
No. I can point them just to this podcast, and it is we'll cover it in full. But James Brunswick, sadly not a person. It's I kind of wanted to allude to. I set it up in a way that I knew people would ask me about it, but I wanted to allude to two places that our band comes from, being the Gold Coast and Brisbane. And Brunswick is for Brunswick Street, and that's where most bands have made their bread and butter, playing at Crowbar, at least in our era. Crowbar's been the home of the heavy.
Fortitude Valley.
Rest in peace. Yeah. Rest in peace,
Yeah.
Crowbar, Brisbane. But Brunswick is Brunswick Street, and then the search for an appropriate street name was to turn it into to turn the character of two different cities into one character was like James Street in Burleigh as a cultural hub. Yeah,
I wanted to scream it out and finish a sentence, and I sort of half did. But James Street, of course, Burleigh Heads.
Yeah. So, it's not a big gig centre or anything like that, but I spent the last 10 years of my life living in Burleigh. I was there all the time, and it is the Shark Bar isn't on James Street, but Marine Parade or whatever it's called just didn't work.
Doesn't. I'm sure there's some young surfer grommy out there, 5-year-old surfer kid with his hair down to his butt, whose name's Marine. It's James. If you're going to name, it's pretty much the perfect name. James Street, Burleigh Heads, Gold Coast. Again, for people not from the Gold Coast, where me and Jesse are from, Burleigh Heads, one of the main Gold Coast towns, and James Street's the main street. So, if you said to some, meet me in Burleigh, James Street, they'll know exactly where to go. Brunswick Street, of course, the main. Of course, Recipes, Crowbar, but Brunswick Street again, is the same thing. If we're going to go out, we're going to go out around Brunswick Street. So there you go. Let me read that again. Now that we know that, our roots spread out amongst the streets, and James Brunswick did you no harm. So tying into the theme of mateship and your family, your home. Those streets and those places are where you create your family that you're not actually blood tied to at all. Yeah, again, it all ties together, doesn't it, now that we know that?
No, it's okay. Yeah, I'm sure there's a James Brunswick out there. I hope he's heard this song. But yeah, like Miami Shark Bar, which is kind of really in Burleigh. It's only a kilometre away from James Street. And Crowbar are probably our two most formative venues as a band. And it's just talking about that place, those people, and that community.
Yeah, excellent. That's great. So apologize if I repeat myself. When I do psychology sessions with my clients, I do repeat the important points to make sure that, because, you're talking to someone for nearly an hour. So you do repeat the important points just to really ram it home. And I will repeat myself. That's why I like doing this podcast, because that is so interesting to know, because I try not to do too much research about the songs if the names are mentioned. But I was like, I think I thought, is he a town planner or is he some like councilman or something? Because you're talking about the streets, or like, is he some early 20th century philosopher, like sort of post Nietzsche or something? I don't know. I thought he might be something like that. So there you go. No wonder he didn't come up. Or someone in LinkedIn, some lawyer somewhere in Sydney came up in LinkedIn or something in the search. Yes. So. The suburbs, I highlighted some other lyrics, but, we sort of, you did cover them. The suburbs built from the TV set, the city will swallow them whole. These roots reach deep within our skin with gifted home and gifted kin. So again, in the context of everything you said, it actually makes perfect sense. There's one last line though, and this that I quite liked, and at the time I didn't get it, but I get it now. But I just want to read it because it's a really good line. You can say your vows to this town. No one is keeping score anyhow. So you can say, like, I'm from like Tweed Heads, Coolangatta, and there's a lot of local pride, more so in Coolangatta. Tweed Heads has come along. When I was young, there was no local pride in Tweed, but now us Tweed people love it. But Coolangatta has got a lot of, especially in the surfing scene and so on, a lot of pride. So you can say your vows to this town. That really jumped out to me. Again, was that about just, Brunswick Street, the Valley, and, sort of thanks for, being you, we love you, sort of? Is that sort of what you mean by that?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, just kind of like, if I was going to be a revisionist on my own lyrics, I'd probably say that like it was the people that mattered, or not necessarily the place, but yeah, it's just kind of, it's a thank you. Well, the whole song is kind of just a thank you and celebration of people and place. So.
Yeah, definitely. I totally understood. No two ways about it. And like you said, it's nice, it's good, and it's artistic, and to write lyrics that are a little bit ambiguous and can be taken either way. But again, after hearing you talk, it's to me it's pretty clear what it's about, and that's a good thing. That's a good thing.
Yeah.
Common Crows, 2016. I'm sure that song still gets you get a film clip for that song, actually, don't you? Is that right? Yeah.
Yeah. It actually, we won best video at the Gold Coast Music Awards for that. We had a director who's a close friend of mine. So that one got a fair bit of viewing, and it's filmed in Currumbin Valley, actually. There's a childhood friend of mine, one of my absolute best friends, Jaden Stevens, directed the film clip around where we grew up. So it's got sort of a pretty personal, you can see where I played as a kid. And look, the ideal film clip would have been go to Brunswick straight.
Yeah, that's what I was about to ask,
thing. Yeah. But he just took it a different direction, and it's a cool clip. Check it out if you're on YouTube.
Yeah, so this is, we're link in the bio, all that sort of stuff. We'll get all those links down at the end. All righty. Common Crow, cool. The next one I want to talk about, this one has got This one has got some cool terminology that I needed to Google what the words meant because, we spoke at the very start, you spoke about your environmentalism, but I think it's actually a good time to bring it up. So the song is Mountain I Am, and you work, so you've mentioned your environmental things, but you actually sort of studied and work in sort of environmental protection. I sort of know what you do, but maybe just tell myself and everyone what you do and what you studied in that context.
Yeah, so I work in conservation land management or protected area management, and that sort of just deals with managing ecosystems to be, functional and support habitat and wildlife to thrive in the landscape. So this song, whilst it's all trapped in metaphor, probably leans a little bit on my professional terminology. There's a word in there, scree, which I don't think, unless you're a mountain climber or a rock climber or something like that, it's not something everyone says all the time. But
no, because I thought you didn't. I thought you didn't edit when you sent me the lyrics. I thought, you didn't even do spell check, And then what you're supposed to say, scream instead of scree. And hang on, why is there no red underline? Oh, it must actually be a real word. So I had to jump on Google and find out what it meant. So again, we know what it means, but I'll give the lyrics. So the song's called Mountain I Am. The heavy beating down on me. Which side of the watershed can I trust? The strength is at our peak, but the weakness is in the scree. So again, scree, dictionary, a mass of small loose stones that form or cover the slope of a mountain. So the strength is in our peak, meaning the mountain, but the weakness is in the scree. So like totally literal for someone who works in conversation, someone who climbs mountains, totally makes sense. But again, the metaphor is definitely there. It's an excellent metaphor about that we're going to get probably a bit more into what this sort of means. But the metaphor's there. No matter the big strength of the mountain, that impossible to move a mountain, as they say, but there's still all the loose, vulnerable stuff on the outside, isn't there, that can be worn away. So that's the impression I get. So again, a metaphor for yourself, isn't it? And your mental health. Maybe you'd like to sort of give us a little bit about the meaning of the song yourself.
Yeah, you've kind of hit the nail on the head, I think. The song is really, I guess, dealing with ideas of these are all ideas that are definitely personal to myself, and it's about dealing with confidence and willpower and eruptions of arrogance or shame or quite hard feelings to feel. The main one of those being, I think the song really is about confidence. And when the lyric that you pulled out, which side of the watershed can I trust, is about we've all got to make decisions in life, and decisions are hard, and they'll lead you into one valley or the next, at sometimes you feel very confident about making them and about your role and who you are and what you're doing, and then sometimes you just feel like you've arrived somewhere at the foothill of a mountain. You're the scree. You're a result of your environment, and you've ended up in a pile at the bottom of the foothill and not feeling in control.
Yeah, okay, yeah. So that's, I think, you said I hit the nail on the head, but you definitely honed it down about confidence. It's and also you're talking about, the emotional stuff. There's a line in here that I really wanted to sort of bring up that's kind of makes a bit more sense now. So the line is, or the two lines, I am the mountain, hard, strong, scree, I am the wind, cold, biting sleet. So before I get you to expand on that, I interpret this. So to someone to say I'm the mountain, they're talking about their strength and stuff, and we covered there's always a bit of scree on the outside. But when you say I am the wind, again, people might use the wind metaphor as being, flexible and can move or, and be adaptable. But you've written, I'm the wind, cold, biting sleet. So just you out of the two analogies of elements you chose, mountain and wind, and then hard and strong, but then also cold and biting. So maybe, what's the go with what you sort of wrote there?
Yeah, I think I think I do this a lot in songwriting where I'm constantly playing both sides of a coin, or writing about conflicting feelings, and so cold biting sleet. When you're feeling like a mountain, when you're feeling strong, when you're feeling in control, you make the decisions strong, hard, scree. Okay, there's strong and hard. Like we feel like we're immovable, but there's still that little bit of doubt. That's kind of the scree. And then if I'm feeling, a little bit less confident, if I'm the wind, am I on an air current, and am I being blown around? There's even doubt about that as well, right? Like, does this mean I'm flexible, like you suggest with, that the wind is fluid or flexible, or does this just mean I get pushed around, or I'm not in control, and having confidence about that?
Yes, understood in that sense. Because that's I picked up. I was going to mention towards the end. Do you know what the word ambivalence means? Ambivalence means to be for two things and at the same time, but even though they're completely opposite. So to be happy and sad at the same time. It might sound a bit odd just to say that, but as an example, you just say you finished school. So you're super happy you finished school, but then you're also super sad because your friend's going to a different university. So you feel one event can create two completely opposite emotions. And I definitely, even though I wasn't really 100% sure what the song was about, I noticed a lot of ambivalence about this, feeling both at the same time. Again, the mountain being the mountain, but also being the scree, So, again, maybe it's a little bit more, I was sort of seeing it a bit more like, on the outside, we've all got a little bit of scree, even though we're mountains. But, the way I'm reading it from how you're telling me is actually you can be totally both, from one to the other. You're not, sometimes you're the full big mountain, but then sometimes you're just that pile of scree at the bottom.
Yeah, no, I think I think the way you've just explained it is probably how I'd now explain it to other people, if they asked, or we could direct them here.
Just watch this.
Just watch this. It is about ambivalence. It is, and it's particularly about the idea of making choices and having uncertainty and dealing with uncertainty, and sometimes feeling great about it, other times feeling uncertain about the direction you've taken, and the song is probably an insecurity in being able to deal with that. That's what it's talking to.
Because yes, from ambivalence, there's always insecurity because you don't know. That's not totally true. You can totally accept your ambivalence, but at the same time, ambivalence can create a lot of uncertainty to people and doubt and which is the right one, I don't know, and the confusion and so on. One last thing that maybe two. There's also another very, very, what's the word? Is it geological? Yeah, let's go geological world. Shale. Free T-shirt, free the Black Swamp T-shirt, the first person to message what the word shale means. How's that sound? The body of earth sustaining through, confidence like shale weathered. Shale, Google, is a soft, brittle, fine-grained and easily eroded sedimentary rock formed from mineral-rich silt. So there you go. Maybe not a free T-shirt, but if you get on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire and they ask you that question and you win the $1 million, you got to buy us T-shirts.
Yeah, and it just goes to that idea of even things that appear hard may be soft and brittle as well.
Yeah. So shale is a good analogy for that, isn't it? Is there enough for me to share? Do you care? Dragons of the night become my mind, and the foothills swarm with life. So I just think that the foothills swarm with life. It's just nice. I mean, I've always want to know what the words mean, but that's just it's a nice line. It gives a little bit of life, a bit of humanism. Just it gives a bit of life to the song. You know, we're talking about rocks and cold wind and stuff, but the foothills swarm with life. Oh, gee, that's kind of nice to hear at the end. A little bit of hope.
Yeah. I think that's where it's the passage you've just talked about. It's within the bridge of the song, and we're lucky to have on the track we had Brendan's sister play a flute solo in the bridge of the song, and then we had Katie from various bands, but most notably Swamp Gully Howlers. She helped us, singing part of that passage, and it's a bit of a triumphant, part of the song about, even though your mind might be busy, dragons become your mind. They're just swimming with uneasiness or whatever. As an ecologist might know, when rock degrades and the scree comes down to the valley floor, and those parts end up becoming the fertile ground, and that's where the life, happens.
There we go. Well, ecologists and music fans now know it. All right, cool. That's very It's nice. It's nice.
Ecological podcast.
Yeah, so we're just covering every base. Yeah, and I didn't know Katie sung that, and I love Katie. She's a cool girl. Swamp Gully Howler. So who knows? Maybe we can get her on next. So that's also a nice little bonus bit to learn. All righty, Jesse. We're down to the song Purge. So I might be wrong about this. So, again, it's a little bit of the people, and you say yourself, you like to write lyrics that, can be interpreted in many ways. But I'll give a bit of a reading, and I will sort of suggest what I think it's about. Song's called Purge, 2016 LP, I Am. We're drowning here under the pressure of kin. Carry your weight. This is the spoil, the roots of many unmoved. And then I'll go on a little bit more before I get your opinion on it. I've heard it all. My stomach has lost all control. I've heard it all. I've seen it all. Smothering reinvention. Is this song about alcoholism? There are some more clues moving on forward, but maybe a family member that had an alcohol problem.
No.
There's a line. The reason that made me get to that, it's fine to say no, but there's a line towards the end. I didn't want to skip forward too much, but drown this liver, deliver, drown the insight. So, drown the liver. So everyone knows alcohol and liver damage, but then drown the insight. So, in drowning, of course, people drown their sorrows, and insight, you just don't. Insight meaning you have no insight. You don't know what the problem is. So, and there's obviously a little bit about kin and stuff in there. So, I thought it was about some alcoholism in the family, but please, maybe tell me what's going on here.
Yeah, it's not it's so heavily steeped in metaphor. This song again, the song's basically a critique of tradition. It's challenging cultural tropes and the way I imagine the song is, imagine you're sitting in a pool of your ancestors' beliefs, and maybe most recent family members' beliefs, and you're soaking them up through your skin, and you're not sure if you should reject them all or not, if you should purge them from the system. Because you maybe don't want to repeat their mistakes, and you don't want to be someone who's arrogant and who has heard it all. Like we've all, come across a person who's like, I've seen it all, I've heard it all. And so the song's very much a critique of challenging what you allow yourself to believe and purging anything that doesn't fit. I've got a great analogy. I think Tim Minchin he's speaking to a university. I think it was one in Perth maybe. And he said to, the graduates in this sort of graduation ceremony, if you, if you're told something or if you adopt a belief, the first thing you should do is you should drag it outside into the yard and bash it to death with a cricket bat. And if it holds up to your scrutiny of that idea, you're allowed to bring it back inside.
Okay, yeah, well, Tim Minchin definitely has a way of words, and he would actually be a very interesting person to get on this podcast too, but let's just worry about that one later. So I there was a couple I sort of skipped ahead about the alcoholism. I covered a few things, but I did in my notes here, the line, pressure of kin, I put a note, is that mum wanting you to get married? So that's like that's like family, and that relates to the history of tradition and going against you, not. I think I'm fairly certain of saying, ladies out there or gentlemen, whatever, Jesse isn't married. I've heard it all before. The stomach has lost control. I've heard it all. Smothering reinvention. So again, it was another, I did make a note saying, toe the line of family tradition. So yeah, I can definitely see what you're going on about. There was something, the bleeding truth. The waters smirched the bleeding truth. So again, I suppose it's all about, just is it the truth? Is the history? Is tradition? Is it true? Is that sort of what's going on there?
Yeah, that's kind of exactly it. I think we've all had people maybe in our lives who you feel like something should be bleedingly obvious that that's not a cool thing to think, or why do you think that? Like, I don't know, whatever your set of beliefs that you've chosen to adopt are, and you just think they're missing the bleeding truth. And maybe I'm hinting at that, we're products of our environment. I think contextually what I was trying to do with that, my part in writing that record was, themes of identity, and a core tension of that, the record, and we've spoken about 3 songs on it, is, some people might look at their role in society as pleasing their predecessors, whereas I might look at my role in society as someone who leaves a better place behind for the next generation.
What screams to your environmental consciousness has a lot to do with that, doesn't it? So I do have to ask. I do have to ask. Then again, you don't have to answer it if you don't want to. But is there, between you and your family quite religious people, and you're not? This is what we're leading to in this conversation?
I think so.
And there's been conflict about that.
Oh, absolutely. Like my my mum is definitely extremely religious, and we'll often joke, if I'm an apple off of that tree, I rolled as far away from the tree as could possibly be. Maybe I see myself as an example of in this song as someone who's rejected some things that are purged myself from beliefs and been a bit of a skeptic, not a cynic, but at least a skeptic.
Yeah, and it sort of floats back to the first song too about the possible. I'm sure then if your mum is are we talking Christianity here or something a bit more So if I think I'm not a Christian, but if you're Christian, to say that we're from aliens is just totally not something that a hardcore Christian they're just going to scoff at that, aren't they? So whereas, again, rewinding back to the conversation we had at the beginning, the fact that you can question, well, maybe we are from aliens, who knows, you weren't really questioning that, but you're open to what could be, and going out there and searching for the answers and stuff. Your mum's definitely, certain she knows the answer. And we're not here, again, to, you got to respect a religion, yada, yada, this and that. We're not here to downplay religion, but in the sense, people can be religious. People can be very zealot, but also atheists can as well. So, but some people are very, very certain of what they believe is what they believe. What does drown this liver? The liver drown the So I got to ask. I thought. I wasn't certain it was about alcoholism, but then when I read "Drown This Liver," so this song's about alcoholism. So what does that line "Drown This Liver" mean in the context of this song?
Yeah, I was conscious it would be interpreted, maybe as a song that related to alcoholism. I think Stu and I, when we were sort of putting together, these lyrics and what could actually fit into the particular phrasings, because for this song particularly, he stylized, how he would deliver his vocal. It's a very sort of heavy, aggressive vocal, and I think when so that bit you're talking about is in the bridge. There was an idea around deliverance, delivering ourselves from, our preconceptions, and it was probably that interplay between drown this liver, i.e., if someone's gone down a conspiracy theory, tract, they're just going to try and find more confirmation bias, and they'll just drown themselves in the same oil.
Okay, so the liver being the metaphor for even though everyone knows if you're an alcoholic, stop drinking, you're going to fuck your liver up. Where you're sort of going, the liver's like a metaphor for just confirmation bias and just finding out more that confirms what you believe. Clever. I got that. Yeah, that's cool.
it might not be good for you, but sometimes when we're trapped in particular thought patterns, we want more of the same. And sometimes that's, a carton a night, beer, or sometimes it's, a particular ideology or a particular belief or something.
All right. Yeah, no, that is actually that is. And again, the more now that we're going through your songs and your lyric writing, it is very much in theme with how you like to sort of write your songs. So yeah, it's quite clever. And at the end of the day, you're a hard rocking, stoner band playing to a bunch of beer swilling metalheads. So it is kind of nice to give them a bit of a drown the liver, throw a little bit of that, a little bit of James Hetfield, a little bit of James Hetfield about you. Why not?
Yeah, it's kind of the meat and potatoes sort of like it's throwing a dog to a bone, isn't it?
Yeah, no, 100%. You gotta, I can relate to that.
Brendan, like Brendan and I love a beer sort of thing. And we don't shy away from the idea that our music is for people to kind of just have a Saturday night beer and nod their head a bit too, and so if this is our drinking song, so be it.
Yeah, no, so yeah, that's right. You gotta throw the dog a bone, but also exercise a little bit of intellect, like I think you have done. So look, they're the songs we were looking to go over. I suppose it's a little bit of at the end. We'd like to sort of pull it all together. And sort of get a bit of an interpretation out of it. The themes, a bit of discovery, a little bit of existentialism in there, a little bit of existential, but not so much existential doom, just a bit more philosophical existentialism, what I think is actually quite nice. If you're a doom band, then you'd have to do existential doom, but not so much. And I can understand too, being brought up in a religious family, but to not be religious yourself. So it's still, so even though you're saying, everyone's going, this is the answer, but you're going, no, that's not the answer. But you've had the question thrust on you so hard, you're sort of forced to think about it in a little way, aren't you? So, we talk about like with alcohol, like it's in psychology, if you can't just tell an alcoholic to stop drinking. So, well, what are you going to do now? You got to find something for them to replace it with. So if you're like being force fed, sort of a lot of religious things, but then, all right, I'm not going to have it. Well, hang on, what's going on here then? And what have I got next? So it does open that question, doesn't it? And I'm not 100% sure you've got the answer, but at the same time, I think you're probably comfortable. You're comfortable with the there's the area's ambiguity in your lyrics and stuff, and you come across a bit ambiguous, not knowing the answer, but kind of okay with that. At your age now, maybe so. I don't know if I interviewed you 10 years ago, even though these lyrics are a bit older. Is that something that you think you're more comfortable with? Is it something that you used to really stress about when you were, 10 years ago? And your lyrics moving forward as well, just a bit of a broad question, but is this sort of ambiguity going to continue, you think? So yeah, if you can answer all that in one big go, what's your view on that?
I think, well, I sort of firmly believe we're products of our environment, and this album and part of, the questioning through it is it nurture or nature, sort of thinking about those things. And there's some existential questions asked, and you're right, I don't pretend to have any answers. The song we covered, Mountain, is grappling with the idea that you may not... I'm self-identifying that I don't have the answers all the time, and sometimes that's troubling. But that doesn't mean that I might fall into a crutch of purge the lyrics, and that would suggest we've got to... I want to look at the data inputs, the things that are coming in critically, and that would suggest, let's let's think about these things and challenge beliefs and be curious. And I think going forward, I can safely say that some of those themes of questioning are definitely still present in our lyrics, and I know Luke's lyrics tend to be that way too. And there's a pretty good marriage between the stuff he's doing and the stuff I'm doing. And one of the greatest things about being in the band at the present time is that we are really aligned on our values, and so the stuff he's writing anyway is probably the stuff I would have written. It's just a different style.
Okay, great.
So like getting into the next album release, that the Black Swamp, thematically and lyrically, I think will still sound the same, or still present itself lyrically in a pretty similar fashion. And we love bouncing, lyrics off each other. And we were working on a song, for the new album, and we're just, because we're interested in writing about the same topic, we're just bouncing like, hey, I just came up with some lyrics that work for that, those 4 verses you've got. Why don't you try throw them over the bridge? And then turned out that was a chorus. So I guess, sort of trying to sum up, I think some of the things that, some of these lyrics that we were sort of working through, in the last run of music, or the ones at least we've explored today, I think they're still pretty similar to the direction. I haven't got it figured it all out yet, Zane. There's still more to figure out.
I would, if I probably again just backtrack a little bit, and I think what's quite relevant to you, and I was sort of going, I threw so much, I threw 3 questions at you, 1 and 3, so that was a bit too much. But the thing that I think that is super helpful, whether and I talk about this a lot with a lot of my clients too, you know your values. So even though you don't know if God's real or not, but you still know your value. We've talked about your environmentalism and things like that. So when I talk to people and you're having those existential crises, who am I? What am I? What's my future? I don't know. I'm lost, But it comes back, I talk to people about values. Well, what are your values? Because if what is important to you, what at right here in life, and that helps people sort of point their compass in the direction that they need to go. And I get, again, coming back to what I said about you, even though you're sort of questioning what's going on in the world, but you're comfortable with it, it is because, well, I'm not telling you who you are, but it gives me, I get the impression it's because you're actually quite clearly aware of what your values are. So if you know what your values are, even if the God's real or not, I'm not really sure. But if I'm living to my values, well, and God is real, well, sweet, I'm going to get into heaven, because it's like, yeah, I live by the good values I got, so come on, and they're kind of the same as yours, God, hopefully. No, maybe I pushed that a little bit too far, but I think you get the gist of what I'm saying.
Yeah, could be blasphemy, and then, or whatever.
Yeah, and the fact that you got a band, the guy who's writing Luke, who's writing the lyrics with you, you guys are on the same values there. That definitely helps too, because it's like a marriage. If 2 people getting married on maths, but they don't have the same values, it's going to fall apart, isn't it? So if a relationship, whether professional, artistic, or love relationship, have same values, then it's definitely going to be very, very helpful with the relationship and moving forward. So good, all good and interesting stuff to know, Jesse. As I said, I like what we spoke about today. It was really interesting. I liked your lyrics. I liked hearing a little bit about stuff about you and having a bit of a deep dive into is God real and people's values. time to wrap it up, but this is the opportunity to give you a plug. I'm not 100% sure when this is going to come out. Obviously, this isn't done live, people listening in, but you must have some stuff to plug. That's why people go on podcasts. So give us your plug.
Yeah, well, we've got some stuff to plug. I guess the main thing is that we'll have an album out 2024. It's our first new album in nearly 8 years. I'm gonna say, for a long player. 2016 was our last long player album, so long time coming. A bunch of new tracks for that we're really excited to get out, and obviously at least an East Coast Australian tour to support that album. We'll be recording it with Ryan Miller from Housefox Studios down in Sydney.
You're heading down to Sydney to record, are you?
Yeah. So heading down, booked in with Ryan Miller there at Housefox. He looked after our EP Witches, which was, I think, 2018 release, which was our first to have Luke on it, and now Luke's playing guitar in the band too, so it's pretty exciting to get our next full length out there, and that's going to be our next sort of touring cycle, and looking to book shows for that. We've just signed with Beats Cartel, who are handling our bookings. Yep. Ricky T from Beats Cartel is looking after that for us, and that's an exciting partnership for us too. So,
thank you so much for tuning in to the Lyrical Wax podcast with myself, PurpleZain. Again, just starting off doing this, so really hope you're getting something out of it, really hoping you're enjoying it, and would really like you to subscribe, like, tell a friend, share the love. I'd also like to throw it out there, if there are any bands, singers, songwriters, musicians that you would love to see interviewed on the Lyrical Wax podcast, by all means, hit me up, let me know, comment if you're watching this on YouTube, flick me a DM, whatever works for you, no worries. The Lyrical Wax podcast with PurpleZain, it's an absolute pleasure. I'm hoping to see you again soon. Thank you.
It's the Lyrical Wax. We pull apart the vocal tracks. Check the singer's syntax on the Lyrical Wax. The